My mother opened a letter marked private and confidential, read it with my father and brother, and then held a family meeting about my lack of respect. I was 24 and still living at home. It wasn't my first choice, but rent in my area had become expensive, and my entry-level salary barely covered my basic expenses. My parents said I could stay with them while I saved money. At first, the arrangement worked. I paid part of the bills, bought groceries, cooked several nights a week, and helped my younger brother with his college assignments. I kept my room clean and rarely invited anyone over. There was only one constant problem. My mother had no understanding of privacy. She entered my room without knocking. She moved my things and asked questions about anything she found. If my phone lit up on the table, she looked at the screen. Whenever I complained, she said the same thing. "We're a family. Why would you need privacy from us?" My father usually supported her. He called privacy secretive behavior and said people only hid things when they were doing something wrong. So I learned to keep important things at work or in my car. Then I applied for a job in another city. It was a major step up from my current position. Better salary, better benefits, a clear path forward. More importantly, it would allow me to move out and support myself. I didn't tell my family. The company had already interviewed me twice, but nothing was final. I knew my parents would turn it into a daily discussion, and I couldn't handle that pressure. My mother had always treated moving away like rejection. Even when I moved into a college dorm 40 minutes from home, she cried for days and told relatives I had abandoned the family. I came home almost every weekend, but she still acted as if I had chosen strangers over her. This job was 3 hours away. I wanted to wait until I had an official offer before saying anything. A week after my final interview, I noticed my family acting differently. My father barely looked at me during dinner. My brother kept giving me awkward glances, then looking down at his plate. My mother was unusually quiet. I asked if something had happened. My mother said, "Nothing you're ready to discuss." That answer made my stomach tighten. I asked what she meant, but she stood up and began clearing the table. My father told me to leave it alone. For the next 2 days, the atmosphere in the house felt heavy. My parents stopped including me in normal conversations. If I entered the kitchen, they suddenly changed the subject. My brother avoided being alone with me. I went over every recent conversation in my head. I couldn't figure out what I had done. Then my manager called me at work and asked whether everything was okay at home. I froze. She said a woman had called the office asking whether I planned to resign. The woman claimed to be my mother and said she was concerned that I was making unstable decisions. I felt heat rise into my face. I apologized and told my manager there had been a misunderstanding. She handled it professionally, but I could hear the concern in her voice. When I ended the call, my hands were shaking. There was only one way my mother could have known about the job. I called the company I had applied to. The recruiter checked my file and told me they had mailed an official offer packet to my home address 4 days earlier. It required a response by the following Friday. I asked if the envelope had any identifying information on it. She said my name and address were printed clearly on the front, along with the words private and confidential. That was when the silence at home finally made sense. But I still didn't know how much my family had read or what they had done with the letter. I left work early and drove home. My mother was sitting in the living room with my father. My brother was upstairs. The moment I walked in, both of my parents looked at me as if they had been waiting. I didn't sit down. I asked where my letter was. My mother crossed her arms. "So now you want to talk to us?" I asked again. My father told me to lower my voice. I hadn't raised it. Then my mother reached into a drawer and pulled out the envelope. It had been torn open along the top. She had folded the offer letter several times and written notes in the margins. She had circled my salary, underlined the relocation package, and placed a question mark beside my proposed start date. She hadn't just opened it. She had studied it. I asked why she thought she had the right to read mail addressed to me. Instead of answering, she asked why I had applied for a job 3 hours away without discussing it with the family. My father said they had given me a home and supported me, and this was how I repaid them. Then my brother came downstairs and joined them. That was the moment I understood this wasn't an argument that had started when I walked in. They had already discussed my letter together. They had passed it around, analyzed my salary, calculated when I might move, and decided that my private decision was something they were entitled to approve. My brother said I had put him in an uncomfortable position because he might need more help with college next year. I stared at him. I had spent months checking his assignments, driving him to campus, and covering small expenses when he ran short. Somehow my job offer had become something I was doing to him. Then my mother said something that changed the entire conversation. She said she had called the hiring company. For a second, I couldn't speak. She explained that she had found the recruiter's number in the letter. She told them I was under family pressure and might not be ready to relocate. The recruiter had refused to discuss my application with her, so she called my current workplace instead. She said all of this as if she had been protecting me. I asked whether she understood that she could have damaged both my current job and my new opportunity. She replied, "If one phone call can ruin it, maybe it wasn't secure enough." My father nodded. Then they accused me of overreacting. My mother began crying and said I cared more about a company than my own family. My father said my tone was cruel. My brother asked why I couldn't wait another year before leaving. No one apologized for opening the letter. No one acknowledged the calls. They only focused on my reaction. I took the offer letter and went to my room. My mother followed me and kept talking through the door. She said shutting her out showed how immature I was. I sat on the edge of my bed looking at the notes she had written beside my salary. That detail hurt more than I expected. The offer had been one of the proudest moments of my career, and my family had turned it into evidence against me before I even got to read it. But what happened next made their real concern much clearer. As I packed an overnight bag, my father came into my room without knocking. He asked whether I understood how my departure would affect the household. I asked what he meant. He mentioned the monthly money I gave them. He mentioned the groceries. He mentioned helping my brother. He mentioned driving my grandmother to appointments twice a month. Not once did he ask whether the new job would make me happy. They weren't upset because I had hidden an application. They were upset because my independence would make their lives less convenient. I stayed with a coworker that night. The next morning, I contacted the recruiter and explained that my family had accessed my mail without permission. I made it clear that any communication about my application should go directly to my email and phone. The recruiter told me my mother's call would not affect the offer. They had already decided they wanted me. I accepted before I could talk myself out of it. The company emailed the documents, and I signed everything during my lunch break. Then I found a small apartment near the new office. I didn't tell my family the address. When I returned home to collect my belongings, my parents had moved from anger to negotiation. My mother said I could take the job if I came home every weekend. My father suggested I continue sending them the same amount of money each month. My brother wanted me to keep reviewing his assignments over video calls. I said no. I would visit when it suited me. I would help in emergencies when I was able. But I would no longer function as the household's backup driver, tutor, and extra bank account. My mother said I was punishing everyone over one opened envelope. I told her the envelope wasn't the entire problem. The problem was that she invaded my privacy, contacted two employers, risked my career, and still expected me to apologize for being upset. She called me selfish. For once, that word didn't make me question myself. I moved out 2 weeks later. For several months, contact with my family was limited. My father sent short messages about bills. My brother contacted me only when he needed help. My mother told relatives I had disappeared after receiving a better salary. I didn't argue with every version of the story. I focused on my new job, built a routine, and slowly became comfortable making decisions without preparing a defense first. My brother eventually admitted that our parents had pressured him to confront me. He also admitted they had discussed relying on my income long before the letter arrived. Our relationship is improving, but it has boundaries now. My parents and I speak occasionally. They still describe that night as the moment I chose work over family. I see it differently. They opened a letter addressed to me, but what they exposed was the role they had quietly assigned me in their lives. And the day I left was the day I stopped asking permission to own my own future.